And we have Thomas Harpointner on the phone this morning. How are you?
Great, thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. Currently, I'm the CEO of AIS Media. The company was founded in 1997, and we are an Atlanta, Georgia-based internet solutions and interactive marketing company. Personally, my background is management consulting. I've consulted companies of all sizes worldwide, ranging from small businesses to Fortune 500 corporations. And today we primarily focus on how companies can leverage the internet to help boost their profitability and reduce their expenses.
How important is this in today's economy?
Well, I think the timing for our industry is absolutely perfect. Every aspect of the world economy is suffering in terms of retail, in terms of manufacturing, and especially in terms of advertising. Newspapers are reducing their circulation. Printing has been way down. U.S. Post Office last year lost over $3 billion in revenue because consumers and businesses are sending 9 billion fewer pieces of mail, and many businesses have replaced postal mail with email, which is one of the services we provide. Companies have scaled back their print advertising, and they've moved to the internet, such as investing in websites and search engine marketing campaigns, which are a lot more measurable than a single ad, let's say, in a newspaper or magazine. So the trend is already there. The internet provides much more insight for a marketing manager or a business owner in terms of what works and what doesn't work. So I believe the type of services that we provide are absolutely perfect in this type of economy where companies have to get much more bang for their buck from their marketing dollars.
Tom, Michael Betteridge here. I'm the operations manager at the radio station. Tell me, is this strictly a thing for retailers to pay attention to, or do you think all business owners should be aware of this?
Well, that's an excellent point. Retail, of course, is right now at the tip of everybody's thoughts because we just got over the holiday season. Retail disappointed. Over 5,000, close to 6,000 retail stores closed in 2008. Some of the largest chains, and those closings are continuing. Certainly more companies, more retailers are establishing a web presence and expanding their reach that way. But really, the internet didn't start with e-commerce. Companies have been using the internet to get the word out for quite some time, even when retail was booming and e-commerce was booming. Today, many businesses are using the internet not just to sell products online, but also to generate leads for their salespeople, because they understand that the internet today is the first place that people turn to for all of their research. Especially with high gas prices during last summer, more consumers are letting their fingers do the walking than they are getting in the car and driving across town just to check out, which digital camera they want to buy. They're doing their research online first, and ultimately maybe making that purchase in the store. But, as I said, it's not just for retailers. For people that are shopping for cars or auto insurance or health insurance, if they're shopping for homes, no one's going to they're not going to purchase a home online, but they're certainly going to do their research online before they spend hours and hours driving around anymore.
That's a great point. I never thought of that. I was thinking of it strictly in terms of e-commerce, but what you're saying is that people get their information now from the internet almost exclusively, and so if you're not in there providing information, then people won't know about you.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's 10 years ago. We started in '97, and even by 2000, not every company had a website, and many companies that had a website didn't have a very interactive one. It was simply a brochure. And if they didn't have a website, they didn't really even feel that bad. They simply said, well, it's just not how we do business. Today, when business owners don't have a website, we're finding that they do have an excuse. They're usually saying, well, it's in the process of being updated, or we haven't gotten around to it, or the webmaster disappeared. Everyone today really understands the value of the website because business owners are also consumers. They also use the internet to shop and do their market research. So, when we look at our own behavior and our own buying patterns, and we see ourselves going online to do our research, then, of course we recognize that our customers and our partners and, potential customers are doing the same thing.
Well, I got to tell you, Tom, you're starting to preach to the choir now because what we've experienced is a downturn in advertising volume as a result of the economic downturn. Of course, people, when they're faced with cutting back, they always cut back on their marketing first, which is exactly the opposite of the way you should handle it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are probably cutting back on their online web services.
Well, the web services is the only industry right now that's still hiring. There was an interesting article I came across a few weeks ago that indicated, how newspapers were laying people off, printing companies were laying people off, even television and radio. There were layoffs across the industry. The only industry that's actually hiring, where over 5,000 new employees were hired in the last 6 months, was new media, meaning search engine marketing, email marketing, web services. That's where a lot of these folks are going. And companies today, many of our clients, we have a client in South Florida, for example, and they have about a $7 to $8 million a year advertising budget. They advertise predominantly on radio and on local cable television. They're a plastic surgery center. When they set up their website, their goal wasn't to eliminate their radio or television advertising by any means, but simply to get more bang from their buck. So now they're still spending heavily on radio and television, but instead of only advertising their telephone number on their radio and TV ads, they're also advertising their website. So their website traffic has spiked, and they're getting anywhere from 10 to 20 leads a day from their website alone. And that's not because the website has replaced other forms of advertising. It's simply given people more information so they can make a decision to get that phone call. So with the same amount of money that they're spending in advertising, they're actually generating more leads because they've discovered that some customers, they want to be able to pick up the phone and talk to a live person, while another type of customer wants to do a little bit of research first and find out, get some of the questions answered on their own, and then decide if they want to call the office to avoid a heavy sales pitch. So what we're finding even with retailers and other companies, the companies that have a cross-channel marketing strategy are the ones that are actually surviving this economic downturn. Circuit City, after 50-some years in business, went bankrupt because their web strategy was a little bit too late. What a lot of people don't know is that Circuit City generated over $1 billion in online sales alone. Now, for any website, that would be incredibly successful. Problem was they had way too many stores and way too much overhead. The $1 billion wasn't enough to keep the company afloat. Other retailers who have embraced the internet, they're faring much better. For the Gap right now, the Gap is generating about 8% of all of the company revenue strictly through their website, while at the same time they're closing over 85 retail stores. And they started this process about this time last year. So they had a little bit more insight. Somebody had a crystal ball over at the Gap and realized, we've got to close these non-performing stores, and we've got to put our money where it counts, where customers are going, and that's the web. So, from a marketing and advertising standpoint, if you don't market, nothing happens. But the question then becomes, how do we, what do we tell our customer to do? Do we only drive them to a telephone number, or do we try to force them into a retail store, or do we give them options? And it's the companies that have a multi-channel marketing strategy, and they're taking that type of an approach, and they're giving customers the options. Those companies are surviving. That many of them are doing actually pretty well. Best Buy isn't going out of business anytime soon. They also implemented their web strategy much more successfully than Circuit City ever did.